We are live. Okay,
So on
can
my
you
end,
all?
it just shows me kind of locked in a preview position, looking at you.
Okay, hang on just a second. Let me.
We could try the same thing again, where you send me another link and then I just accept that link again.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm trying to do that. Okay. Um, let me see. Okay.
Will you send me another link and then I just accept that link again?
Yeah, I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to see how it. Well,
Yeah, no
let me
problem. Take your time.
let me do that without. Okay, I have save highlight. I have share, mute microphone, and remove guest.
You can maybe
I'll do
let me
share.
see if I let me see if I can end it and rejoin and see if that helps. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Well done.
We're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but hooty hoo, I'm Andy, your calamity girl. Thank you for coming to join us. Um, we have the little glitch, and so we're trying again and see how this works. So, I am
Did
getting
that help at all?
my.
I can hear you now.
Hey,
Did
there
that
he
help?
is. There he
Great.
is. There you are. Hooty hoo.
Hooty hoo. How's it going?
It's going great. It's so good to see you. Thank you for being
Good to see
here.
you as well.
Yeah. Gosh, you look like you got a little sun.
I didn't get a lot of sleep, but I'm doing
Okay.
okay. I found out just a little bit ago that Pee Wee Herman passed away, and that's hitting me pretty hard right now.
Yeah.
Pee
Yeah.
Wee Herman hits me right in my childhood.
Yeah. Me too. I remember my friend Nikki and I in high school watching his movie, The Adventures of Pee Wee Herman, and she'd be on one end of a class and I'd be on the other end, and when both with our big phones, hello, you know. So that was kind of fun. So, um, it's good to see you. Welcome to
Great to see you
Wyoming.
too. Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it. Great to be in Wyoming. I love being in the mountain area.
Oh my gosh. Well, I could just talk to you forever, but that's not what this
I'm
is
hoping.
about, right?
I think that we should make it a little bit longer, just to compensate for the technical difficulties at the start. So it doesn't have to be an hour. We can do 2 hours, maybe even three
Okay.
hours, which is okay.
Okay. Well, then, let me make sure I got the chat. The You should be able to see the chat.
I can. What's up, True, Chanel,
Okay.
May, Impress Me? I can see the chat
Okay,
now.
right on.
As far as the rules, though, it doesn't bother me when anybody talks about other streamers, anything like that. That doesn't bother me.
Mhm,
So whatever
mhm.
rules that are okay with you, that's fine. But as far as me, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
What's up, Matthew?
Wow.
Kat?
You sound like you're an open book. That's cool. That's cool. And everybody who is new to the channel, thank you for coming. Normally, I mess around and screw around in the kitchen and try and throw some things together. But my heart is being split on doing interviews of people who uh, are interesting to me, and then, and in addition to that, people from our chat, get to know people, pull them through. These are real people too, and everybody I think has a story to share. So yeah.
I think in
So
the past
anyway.
I've been apprehensive about doing interviews, because the more that people know about you, it seems like the more that they get attached to you because they can relate to you, and it also
Mhm.
seems like the more vulnerable you end up being because you just open yourself up. It's not always the people that are fans of yours that are watching, it's also
Yeah.
people that are trying to pop your balloon. And so it's, in the past, I've been apprehensive about letting people into my private life. It seems like the more that people know about me, the more that they want to fill in the gaps of the things that they don't know. But especially right now, I've been going through an emotional summer. I almost lost my dad at the beginning. I'm kind of losing my mom right now, and I
Sorry.
lost my aunt, who I'm really close with, right before the summer. I've just kind of had a flood of emotions this whole year, and I feel like the the more vulnerable that I can be, the more helpful I can be to other people just by sharing whatever experience that I have that's real. And so I want to be as much of an open book as I can. And so whatever you have to ask me, I'm going to answer to the best of my ability.
I really appreciate that, and I'm one, just real quick, who is coming out of the place that you're in a span of 18 months. We were the only ones in the community to survive the largest wildfire that is in Wyoming history. And then my father passed away. And then I had three friends up here who I was very close to, and all completely unrelated. They all passed away. My horse died, my dog died, my and then my home burned down. So I understand what emotional roller coasters are. And so my heart and my
When I
prayers
was
are to you.
in fifth grade, my house burned down. My family was on vacation, and we had a cat that was getting ready to have kittens. And we called back, and my dad is kind of an unemotional person. He's just very what you see is what you get. He's not a very emotional guy. And we saw him on the phone. He turned white, and he came back to our table, and he didn't say anything. He just said, "We need to leave." We got back in the car, and everybody was just really quiet. And he said, "Your grandparents told us that there was a fire at the house, and we lost everything." And we were just like, "Everything? We lost everything?" And he's like, "We lost everything." So we drove back, and it was all of our neighbors standing around, just like they felt bad for us. But when you lose everything, it's you just have to start a new life, and you pick up
Hmm.
pieces from that old life and bring it with you. But for the most part,
Yep,
like that's the start of your new life. And when
exactly.
uh when I go to these scenes, as I'm approaching, before I even park the car, I smell the soot, and boom, I get slapped with the PTSD of like all of those emotions of when I saw it for the first time. And there were certain things that we saved out of the fire that weren't completely crisp and gone, and you almost don't want them after a while because that smell of soot brings you back to the moment, and you just kind of want to forget about it. And so I have so many things now that are still in Ziploc bags, photos, different things that if I open it, it just smells like it came right out of the soot.
Mhm.
So I definitely can relate, and I feel so bad for you. I'm sorry that you had to go through that.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. And likewise, I'm sorry that you had to go through all of those traumas as well. It's tough. It's not easy. But
I think it's hard for me when I get to these fires and I see the people, they have no idea what they're about to go through, and I do know what they're about to go through. And so it's hard to tell them, like, just be thankful that you got out, thankful that you got your pets and things like that. But the road is, I know what a long road they're about to embark on, and I just feel
mhm.
bad for them, especially in the moment.
We crawled out on our stomach. Our fire alarm saved our lives. So, so
Unreal.
anybody who's screwing around with their fire alarm, please don't. Please don't. So tell us who is Jeremy? Who is Jeremy Reed?
mm, I'm just a regular person.
Okay.
uh, I'm trying to do the best I can. I'm somebody that really likes to invent. I like to take something that already exists and try to change it a little bit. I come from a family that is very wealthy with integrity. And
Mhm.
so I'm in that line of people. When I look back on both sides of my family, it's amazing people. And so they've passed the torch to me, and I have a lot to live up to in terms of being in the same category as these people that have helped me to get to this point.
I like that you said wealthy with integrity. It's very important. I lost somebody right after my home burned down. He became a father figure to me when my dad died, and home burned down on his last birthday, and then we lost him. and he was a very wealthy philanthropist, and we never talked about money once. And that's not, I didn't love him for that. I loved him for the person he was. Yeah. So I miss you, Foster. So okay, Jeremy, are you married?
Yes.
Yes. You want to talk about your wife or move on?
I'll talk about her.
Okay.
I So as far as the people that have known, I've had the same friends my whole life. If you have met me and you know me, I'm probably your friend for life. I've known
Mhm.
the same people since I was in elementary school, and the people that are really close to me and the people that know me well never thought that I would get married. And it was something that I kind of always thought myself. I was like, I don't think I'm that person that will do any of the traditional things.
Mhm.
And I've just always felt like that. It always, when you look back at pictures of me when I was a little kid, I was just always kind of doing my own thing. And I never really saw the traditional path of like kids getting married, doing the same sort of things that I was seeing everybody else do. I never thought that that was in the cards for me.
Mm,
I dated girls here and there.
mm,
And then at a certain point, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go for those really far shots and just see, you know, who who I can kind of go out of my range and see if they'll give me some attention. And there was a girl that I was friends with. She was not on my radar at all as somebody that I would be dating. She was a little bit out of my league, and it was just almost like too good to be true. Somebody that I didn't even have my sights set on. To meet Linda and to be able to know her and then ask her if she wants to spend her life with me and have her say yes. I've been through so many different things in my life. That is the greatest accomplishment that I've been through. It's just having her by my side and the the confidence that that gives me to lead the life that I lead. I know that I have somebody at home that is not only taking care of me but has my back no matter what. And
mhm.
I didn't think that I would really need that, but I do need that. So
Yeah.
I think out of all, I've done some amazing things in my life, a lot of things I'm proud of. I think the thing that I'm most proud of is picking the right person to spend my life with.
Wow. Wow. That kind of blew me away. I heard you say one time you were doing a stream. Uh, it was a rainy night, and you just decided not to chase calls. You were just walking around, and you went and grabbed some tacos, and then went into my old stomping ground of Newport Beach. And because I grew up in Fraser Park area, and but then in high school my parents moved me down to Orange County, right behind South Coast Plaza. And so during the summers, we'd be all at the beach, and you were walking, nobody was around, where you were down at the fun zone, and nobody was around. And then you were kind of window shopping, and you said, "Oh, I like the designs of these suits." And then you said, somebody said something to you in the chat, and you said, "What? My wife's a 10. Actually, she's a 12." And you just kept moving
Wait,
on. And
I didn't hear. I didn't hear the very last part. Can you say that last part again?
yes, I can. You said, "My wife is a 10. Actually, she's a 12." And you moved on.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
I,
was
uh,
awesome.
I know. I think about that all the time. It's not just me that would be happy to be with her. Anybody would be happy to be with her, and so uh, have you ever seen like an NBA game where somebody takes that full court shot and nobody thinks they're gonna make it, and just like one out of 100 times they make it? That's how it feels to be with my wife. It's like I know that anybody would be lucky to be with her. I'm with her. That's the Olympic torch. That's the gold medal. I already feel like I am a winner in that category, and so it gives me a lot of confidence for sure.
Hang on to her real close while you're going through all of this. Just, you know.
I don't know
Where
why
did you
it's cutting out just a little bit, but I'll let you know if it gets worse. I think it's okay.
Okay. What? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Winterset, Iowa. So it's a small town in the Midwest. It's about
Mm,
40 miles south of Des Moines. It's
okay.
famous for their covered bridges.
Mm,
They have covered bridges all over town, and it's also the birthplace of Marion Morrison, who's known as John Wayne. And it's kind of ironic, like people know that town because of John Wayne, and I grew up with a lot of John Wayne influences because that's his
mhm,
birthplace. But my family's very, uh, we grew up with a lot of respect for Native Americans and for the role that they played. And when you live in the Midwest, you everything has Native American connections, and it was really interesting for me to learn about all of the Native American roots in that area, and I have probably even a stronger connection to the Native American heritage there than over the John Wayne part of it. But
mhm.
it's interesting. It's interesting being from a place where they love John Wayne. So, and then you come to Orange County, and there's kind of like a controversy here with the John Wayne Airport and
Yeah,
some of the
yeah.
things that he said in his lifetime didn't really age well. And
Mm,
it's a weird place to be in the middle of. But I love Native American everything. I'm such a huge Native American fan, and it's hard for me to watch some of the movies where the Native Americans are just. I'm also a huge Underdogs fan.
okay.
Uh, any event that it's somebody versus an underdog, I like the underdog. I'm just a huge supporter of the underdog, and I feel like the
Mm,
Native Americans were 100% the underdog in a lot of those
okay.
scenarios. And so, yeah, I have a strong connection to Iowa. And then I grew up in Iowa. That was my young stage of my life. And then in middle school, I moved to Colorado. And that's where I say that I grew up because the whole first part of my life was very autopilot. I was just a very happy go lucky. I look back and I just can't believe how much I was really just floating through. I had a lot of support from family and friends, and I didn't have to deal with a lot of abuse or anything that was really too traumatic for me. And so I had a really, I think, a good childhood. And
Yeah.
then when I moved to Colorado, that's when I grew up. I met a
Okay.
whole new group of friends that really challenged me, and that's also when I started to try to be above my peer group. I always wanted to be hanging out with older kids, people that had something to teach me. I didn't want to be the leader of the pack. I wanted to be the one that had the most to learn and the most to prove. And I like that. I like being underestimated, the young one. It's kind of
Yeah.
the role I've always just felt comfortable in.
Wow, impressive. What were you like in high school?
I was wild. I I was getting told by a lot of people, you better get all of that out of your system now because they can't try you as an adult. So if you were to get into any big trouble, it's going to get wiped away when you're 18. And I really believed that. I was like, okay, whatever happens between 0 and 17, they're going to shake the etch a sketch, wipe it out. You're going to have a clean record at 18. I didn't understand that all that stuff still carried over.
Yeah, yeah.
Fortunately, I was smart in the things that I did, and I didn't get caught for 98% of the things that I was doing. And I'm also so thankful that they didn't have cameras back then. People didn't have cell phone cameras.
Mhm.
I did a lot of embarrassing things, and yeah,
We all did.
I remember I remember that time fondly. Uh, I could go in the other room and show you my senior picture. People like to see it because I was always the kid with the cool hair. I don't have
Mhm.
any hair now, but I
Okay.
was always the kid. I was always the kid with the like huge blonde wave or just
Flock
something
of
that
seagulls.
it didn't fit in with the crowd, and I didn't
Mhm.
care. It was just kind of always that theme for me.
Were you the flock of seagull?
Yeah, hold on real quick. I'll grab my
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
grab the picture for you. It'll take me a second. Hold on.
Okay. Great. I'll just let my dog in the house because she's demanding. Go ahead, guys. Okay. Oh, great. So, hey, so guys, what do you think so far? I'm kind of blown away. Yeah, this is really nice. He didn't have to do this. He really didn't have to. This is great. Oh my gosh. Look at you. Your teeth are whiter
So I
than your
have
hair.
these are Jinko pants. You can see that they're corduroy. They're big Jinko, and I don't know.
That
I'm
is
just all,
great.
people were always calling me Preppy from Saved by the Bell, and I was always like a little skater kid, like a snowboarder.
Yeah,
They call
yeah.
it like when I grew up, it was called skate rat. But I was just always like I I played every sport, but I also was into snowboarding, skateboarding,
Mhm.
any board sport I love. So yeah, I was uh, I was similar to how I am now, but
Yeah, yeah.
more reckless. I think a lot more reckless.
Okay. Okay. Um, did you go to college?
I
My
did. I went
son's
to
gonna
Denver
turn in.
University.
My son's gonna turn in, and you might hear one of my dogs start howling. I'm so sorry if she does.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah,
Okay.
I moved around a lot.
Okay.
After Colorado, I lived in Minnesota. I lived in a couple different places, and when I was in high school, I ended up moving back to Colorado and staying with some friends of mine,
Mhm.
and they were a Filipino family. It was my two best friends, and they asked their parents if I could move in with them, and I ended up moving in with them.
Mhm.
What was the original question? I forgot the question.
Oh, it was just college. Asking if you went to
Oh, right,
college.
right, right. Okay, so in when I was in high school, when I moved back from Minnesota, there were some credits that were over transferring and under transferring. They were like you're ahead of everybody in this area and you're behind everybody in this area. And in
Mhm.
Colorado, where I went to high school, if they didn't offer certain things at the high school, then by law they had to pay for you to go to community college. So
Mm.
I started out at this place there called Front Range Community College, and
Mhm.
my high school had to pay for all those classes. And what's also cool, and I loved it at the time, was they didn't have class Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It was only Monday, Wednesday. And so I got
Oh.
to leave campus. I'm 16, 17 years old. I'm leaving campus, going to college. And then the days that I had off, I had off. And that was incredible. The other kids I was going to high school with, they had to be at high school all day. I was coming in and out. It almost felt like I was on a college campus in high school. And
Gee.
I think that's when I don't know, that's when I was stretching my legs as far as being reckless and just kind of I don't know. It was back when Jackass had first come out, and I had always been the one that was filming. I was always friends with skateboarders that were better than I was, and
Mhm.
when you're the lowest person in the stack, you're the one holding the camera,
Yeah,
and
right.
that's kind of always that's when where I was most comfortable as well because I wasn't outperforming any of these other people, and so I was like, I'll be the one that watches and stays a little bit
Mhm.
safer. After I went to Front Range Community College, I graduated high school with several credits, and then I transferred to DU, which is a private school in Denver. And so it's a very expensive private college. The only reason that I was able to go there is because my mom was working there at the time and I got a 70% tuition discount for her
Wow.
employment there. So
Okay.
70% off of college is a lot, especially
Yeah.
a private school like that. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, after I went to DU, I went to work at this place called eToys, and that's a place that makes. They bought out FAO Schwartz, if you remember that
Mhm.
old toy
Oh, yeah.
company. They bought out all the stock and all the over toys and overstock, and we were taking pictures of those things and putting them online for the first time. And so I worked at a website called eToys, and it was back when the .com stuff was still booming, and I lived in San Francisco for a little bit. I moved all over and
Mhm.
eventually ended up back in Colorado and then was taking care of my mom. And then I got an offer for an internship in Hollywood, California. And my cousin owns an animation studio. My cousin was
Okay.
an animator on The Simpsons for 20 plus years. And
Oh.
he always wanted to break out and start his own animation company. So I went and worked for him in Hollywood. That was my first job in Hollywood. And I'd been offered a couple internships with him from time to time, but it was never the right time. He offered to bring me on and kind of show me the ropes at his animation studio. And that's when I started the chapter of being homeless, because I didn't have any place to stay. I didn't have any money, but I couldn't give that opportunity up again. I'd already given it up a couple times. My mom was already sick, and that was one thing that she wanted. She was like, it's making it worse that you're
Yeah.
not doing these things. It's making me feel worse. And she was like, if you want to help me, then you need to go do that, and that will help me.
Mhm.
So that's when I came out to California, and that experience helped me out a lot. Being homeless and seeing all of that stuff and knowing what it felt like, and I don't know, people feel sorry for themselves for going through situations like that. I think it helped me out a lot, especially the happiness levels in my life, because I'm referencing that all the time. The times that I had to wake up at 5, 6 in the morning because the sun's coming through the windows and it's so hot that you can't sleep. I'm a touchy sleeper anyway, and so it's like all of these things. And I also love to be clean. That's something that people don't know about me, is like I love to be clean. I love the shower at the end of the day. I'll take a midday shower. When you're homeless, you can't really take care of your hygiene and stuff the way that you normally would if it was effortless. And so that's something that I think about when I'm helping these people out. If I have the opportunity to help anybody out, you don't want to be in that bad situation, but there's nothing that you can do about it. And it just snowballs out, and sometimes it gets out of control. So I have a lot of empathy for these people. And especially the situation that I was in, I hid it the whole time that I was homeless. I didn't want people to know. I was embarrassed about it. I was showering at like fitness centers and just doing things to hide it from people. But yeah, now looking back, it's something that's been really helpful for me. And every night, I'm not exaggerating, every night when I go to sleep, I'm just so thankful for the door that I get to close, the pillow, everything.
Yeah. I can't relate to being homeless, but I have a very dear friend. She was one of the 3 who passed on, and she came up here to help me, and within 3 weeks, she was gone. And one of our little dogs was her service dog, and so but I
I'm
remember
sorry to hear
her crying, just shrieking to me, saying, "I can't be homeless again. I can't be homeless again." And so, "Come here. Just come up here." And
when I
then
was
she died.
oh sorry.
Go ahead, go ahead.
When did she pass away?
October 23rd, 3 years ago. Yeah. It just but the way the world is changing now, I don't know that she'd be able to handle all of it. So,
Well, you, it seems like that, but people just adapt. Whatever we have to go through as a human, like we just have to go through it. It's a
yeah, yeah.
it's something that you don't think in the moment that it's something that you could get through, but when you have no other choice, you persevere.
Yeah. Well, after our home burned down, it was 3 in the morning. We had nowhere to go, and but that's a different story. No, this is not about me. This is about you.
When I
I
had
think
my
I'll
fire, we to go back to when my house burned down, we were on vacation at that time, and the front door was locked, and we had put the chain over the front door from the inside.
Mhm.
And so when they got to our house, they thought that we were inside sleeping. And so later on, I had heard from different people that, like my neighbors and everybody, they were searching through this burning house looking for us. And some of our neighbors thought that we might have been inside. And so I don't know, just when I hear people that have lost pets or that had somebody that actually passed away in a fire,
Yeah,
you just have to be so thankful for everything that went right. And it's hard to see
you
that
do.
in the moment where something bad's happening. But recently, I had a friend that he's a mailman, and he got into a horrible crash, and he was ejected from the vehicle.
Oh my
He broke his jaw. He has a lot of injuries, But now that he's recovering and now that he's back at home, I'm just listing the things that could have been worse. You could have had both of your eyes gouged out. You could have had,
Yeah,
and then just the list of things that didn't happen. And he was like, yeah, this list is something that I'm thankful that all of these things didn't happen. No
that's
matter what
right.
you're going through, if you have that perspective of would it be worse if fill in the blank, I think that's one of the things that I'm good at is knowing when things could be worse and then appreciating that they're not worse.
Absolutely. We were fortunate to only lose our 8 chickens and cats. That was it. We could have lost our lives too. Yeah, but anyway, um, let's move. I'm gonna move on. Let's talk about LAOC TV. Is that okay?
Sure.
Right on. Okay, what is LAOC TV?
That's one of the projects that I'm working on right now. Uh, it's one of probably 9 projects that I am
Oh,
interacting with at this moment. It's kind of been a hobby of mine for 6 years now. It's the more professional way of something that I've been doing for a very long time. I
mm,
worked at X Games, which is owned by ESPN. It's kind of the extreme sports portion of ESPN. And when I was young, I worked there kind of in the art capacity, and some of my friends worked there, and I was just kind of enjoying the whole. I don't know what to call it. It's a festival. It's more like a music festival, sports competition
mm,
party.
yeah. I've
And
been there.
as
I've been to
really, where
and Los Angeles. My son was about 8 or 9, and so I wanted to surprise him. So my husband, who he's not anymore. He's retired Orange County Sheriff, and he uh, ended up, coming with my son and I, and we went to the ones in Los Angeles by the Staples Center, and we got tickets for the BMX bikes because our neighbors, we lived in Corona at the time, and our neighbors a couple doors down, they were ex game riders, and they would do stuff in the streets for us. And it was kind of fun. So yeah.
that's funny. I wonder if we were there at the same time because I worked all of those LA events and we would have the Staples Center and then LA Live right across the street and we had those for
Exactly.
a week. So we had everything. We had complete access to everything inside Staples Center and everything inside LA Live. And one of
Hmm.
the cool parts about the job that I had was that my badge had an escort star on it, which meant that I could take any groups of people, big or small, into the event. And so they would call me and say, "Hey, we have this third grade class
Ah,
that's coming through," and I would escort them in. Are you okay?
yeah, I had a gnat like almost go into my eyeball.
I,
uh,
I
okay.
so I had this I had
I
this
have one
special.
of these. I can,
Oh, nice. I have one of
did
those
you
as well.
hear that?
I like that.
I got it.
Yeah.
I got one. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
um, I forgot what I was saying. Oh, so the credential that I had the ability to take any kinds of groups of people. And so I did my job well, but then I also would bring my friends or any groups of people and kind of
Yeah.
put them in certain areas. And I tried to be the Make a Wish Foundation for everybody that I knew that I could give this extra access to. And so every year I had less and less fun because they kept piling the responsibility on me more and more. And toward the end, I was the person that was responsible for a lot of the things that were going on, and I didn't like that. I liked just
Yeah.
being somebody that was kind of a spectator with a little bit elevated presence. But at the very end, I was the one that was running up there, being the first contact for the person that was injured, keeping the other photographers away, facilitating the transfer when they got injured, and then in some cases, like one year in Aspen, there was a kid that passed away.
Mhm.
Fell off his he fell off his snowmobile. He fell in front of it and it hit him. And so they took him to the hospital. we all knew the condition that he was in days before anybody
Yeah.
else. And so he had actually passed away, and his organs were in other people. His parents signed the order to be able to release his organs. We were still telling people as a corporation, pray for him. Hopefully he'll be okay, because
Mm.
ESPN is owned by Disney, and Disney wants to keep everything, sewed rainbows
Oh, yeah.
and sparkles. And so I really got to see another side of the world, because when you're the person, I was the PR manager of that
Mm.
scenario. I was responsible for all of these little things, the information leaks, the sensitivity when it comes to this is what the story is, this is what, and we're interacting with media from all around the world. And that was one of my jobs there. Was I was the press officer manager. I was the point of contact for all of these people all around the world, whether they come from Sweden, Norway, Africa. They had to interact with me, and then I would kind of help them get the interviews they needed, work with the managers, work with the different stations. And so when I actually left that job, I was so relieved to not have the responsibility from all of these different things. And the one thing that I saw every year, I was there for 12 plus years. Every year, somebody would be working for Monster, Red Bull, one of these energy drink companies, and they would break off and they would start their own company. And then they would
Mhm.
come back and they'd have one employee, and then the next year they'd have three or four. I watched them grow these different businesses from the ground up, and it was people that I knew. And so when I asked them, I always like to ask people if they care about me, please give me a little bit of good advice, because I listen
Mm.
to good advice. I really try to soak in and learn from someone else's mistakes. And they were like, start early. If there was one thing I wish I would have done, I would have started earlier. So before I turned 40, that's when I started a couple of these projects that I'm trying to kind of pour water on right now. It's a little garden of projects, and I try
Mm.
to give them all as much sunshine as I can and water, but I'm definitely neglecting a lot of the projects right now. And moving forward, that's something that I'm trying to do, is wrap up the things that I've already bitten off, and then not
Mhm.
take on new things, because I'm just so interested in things. And now that I have become more like a person that people are interacting with, I get invited to do, you should do a documentary on this, you should really check out this story. And just everything is just always so exciting. And I have to remind myself, like, even though something's new, you need to wrap up the previous thing before you start something new.
Tie
So
your
it's just
loose ends
it's
up. Tie up your
it's
loose
one of my
ends.
projects, but it's
Mhm.
just one of the projects. It's one of nine, and I love it, but it's also just one card in the stack.
Okay. Okay. Um, just a sidebar real quick. I For those who don't know, I have multiple sclerosis, and sometimes my I can I can see words, but sometimes I struggle getting them out. And so if you could just bear with me on that, you guys. And then also my hypothalamus gland is damaged, and so my body doesn't know when I'm thirsty. So if you see in the chat people holding up water bottles, whatever, that's why, because they remind me. So
This is my water.
yeah.
Whenever you see me, I always have a bunch of water, and that's one of the things about me, is I am a water snob. I have to have quality water. I like Crystal Geyser. Uh,
Mm,
can't afford Fiji, but like anything in that like higher, I I can taste when water is not good, and so I need
you
to have high
know,
quality water.
the water that we get, we have a well, and it's actually a mountain spring, and it's the best water you've ever had in your life. Water snobs who have come to and drink our water. Oh my God, and I've had people take but like gallons of it home, and so, but anyway, um, I'm just because you kind of answered some of these. Okay, with LAOC, have you always worked alone? has that been a project that you were a one-man band of, or did you kind of farm it out to other people to help you?
Um, so I think that I'm a good boss. I I've I've been the boss of a lot of people. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. The thing that I've found out though is that I'm too empathetic, I'm too caring, I'm too much of a good boss, I'm too understanding. It hurts me in the way that I'm not good at making money financially. I'm not I'm not the person that can figure out how to monetize something. I just want to see it. I want to see the rocket go up into the air and look at it. I'm not thinking about the dollar signs that are coming off of it.
Yeah.
That's hurt
Me
me
too.
up into this point. I'm trying to become more balanced in that so that I have enough fuel to take me on whatever adventure I'm on. Usually I'm just going off of the adrenaline of that. But I started it on my own because I never wanted to make somebody feel like, hey, I'm telling you to do this, and never really wanted to spread that out. It's a hard thing to do. What people don't realize is that if you see something on my page, if you see a car accident or you see some kind of situation, I put my gear on and left and saw six different things that didn't end up being a video. It was something that was a minor thing or something that I didn't want to show. So all these different
Mhm.
incidents, you're not
Yeah,
seeing every single thing. And so I didn't want to put somebody in the position where I'm like sending them to different places, and then I say, "Hey, that equaled $27, even though you spent 47." And when I first started interacting with the different people, the the history as far as my background in news, my mom was always a journalist. As far as I can remember, my mom has been a writer and she's been a journalist and a reporter. She was a reporter for a local news paper where I lived, and then also sold that to the bigger newspapers.
mhm,
When I was young, she was always telling me, because I've always been into music and I've always been into
mhm,
concerts. I want to
mhm,
see live music. She was like, Jeremy, if you would just start your own anything, call it whatever you want, you would be able to interview these bands and you would get backstage access to do whatever. And
mhm.
so when I started to see that that was true, if I wanted to go interview Vanilla Ice or whoever it was when I was younger, I was just one interview away from meeting all my heroes and then also being put in the front row or wherever. And the access is something that I really wanted. So that was always on my radar. Even when I worked at ESPN, I was interacting with hundreds of different media outlets and seeing their best strategies year after year.
Mhm.
And then also, since I was on the management side at ESPN, they're sharing all of their corporate strategies year to year, which are like the most weapons grade PR strategies that are even available because it's Disney. They have access to all of this R&D that other people don't have. So I was I was hearing all of this like weapons grade great ideas year after year. I'm seeing
Sure.
people starting their own things, and then I'm like, okay, the advice I've been given is start it early so that you have time to grow it. Uh, when I first got to the scene and started seeing the other people that were doing independent filming, it was like gangland as far as them not working together. It was my competition just showed up, my competition, and now it's you versus them as far as who got the better footage, who could get it in first. Don't
Mhm,
buy it from this person, buy it from me. And it kind of felt like I need to let the tires out of this person's car so that they can't beat me in the race. And I've
mhm.
never been okay with that. I've never been okay with
A dog eat
chopping
dog.
somebody else down so that you can come up.
Yeah.
If you're more creative, there's a way for you both to come up at the same time. It's not that you have to have them be down in order for you to come up. And so that was the whole idea of Stringers Live. I'm a fan of sports. I like to watch ESPN Red Zone. I've always worked around different people that had security cameras. I was like, wouldn't it be cool if you could have a security camera blocked out list and see what's happening? You can see, oh, it's raining in Florida.
Mhm.
Oh, it's clear in California. To me, that's just interesting. And
Sure.
Also, it kind of feels like that's probably what the aliens are doing too. They're looking at, okay, this is what it looks like on the East Coast. This is what it looks like over here. It was just an interesting idea for me. And I'm always like interested in that zoom out. I'm always saying that to my wife and my friends. I'm like, zoom out of the problem, like look at it from a completely far out perspective. And I I wanted to bring everybody together, and that was the whole concept for Stringers Live is could we all agree on something? Could we all have a place that we're all proud of? And that was one of the reasons why I never monetized it too, is because everybody was always trying to figure out why. Like, why are you doing that? Are you trying to promote certain people over other people? Are you
Mm,
trying to be the bouncer that won't let certain people in and only your friends in? And so I've tried to just really have it be a community of people that want to be there, that are interested in doing it right. The one standard that I have though is that you have to respect first responders and respect the role that they're playing. And if for some reason I find out that you don't have that level of respect that I expect from the people there, then that's how you end up not being on the list. But to answer your question, the only person that I've really had working with me on LAOC TV is my friend Alien Alphabet,
mm,
AXN News. And when I first started Stringers Live, it wasn't automated in the way that it is now. And so I physically was loading all of those videos into the boxes. We had Damon being the host. Damon was hosting a weekly show for us. And I was kind of, I had seen how they had done ESPN for years. I'm in
mhm,
the programming rooms watching the editors and watching them chop up Sports Center. I
huh,
thought it would be so cool if we had a sports center for news clips. And
okay.
I was watching a lot of these things that people weren't seeing day to day. Did you see this? Did you see this? I was seeing 20 plus things that people weren't seeing. So I was like, okay, if I would be the one that got all of those clips together, I could put out a little ESPN type thing. So when Stringers Live first started, my friend Alien Alphabet was just starting to get into the news stuff, and he was going live on LAOC TV. And so
Okay.
he was the only other employee that I've ever had, other than my wife, who technically is like everything. She's the Swiss Army knife as far as helping out with any of this stuff. But when Stringers Live first started, he was representing LAOC TV in LA. And at the beginning, I was like, this is perfect. He can be LA, I can be Orange County. I would have I would have loved to have like done that together with him. The reason that I saw that being a potential problem is that I've seen so many people fight throughout the years with all kinds of different things.
Yep.
Uh, and so thinking about working with your friends, it's
Mm,
it's got a lot of potential for something to go wrong. And so I asked him, I said, would you like to work as the second part of LAOC or would you like to start your own thing? And he thought about it for a day or two and he was like, I want to start my own thing. And that made me so happy because that's what I'm seeing the same spark that I had. I'm like, okay, if you're working for something and it's yours, you work so much harder.
mm.
And then, like, if I was to
You
dispatch
do.
him somewhere, hey, go chase this police pursuit, and then all of a sudden he was put in danger or he didn't get paid for it or something, I would just feel so guilty. That's the person that I am. And so
Mm,
I love that he started his own thing. I It's been proud for me to watch him grow and just see him like incrementally level up all the way. And I love that he's not working for me because there's less opportunity for us to fight about whatever. And that's, I think, the coolest thing about any of these people owning these little channels is it's all up to them. If they want to take the week off, the month off, cool. If they want to go out every single day, every minute, cool. It's
mhm.
all up to them. And I think that the ball needs to be in their court as far as making the decisions on all these different things. And I'm proud of him. I'm proud of the progress that he's made. And if you haven't checked him out, check him out. His channels are Alien Alphabet, AXN News, and yeah,
Yeah,
it's just been he and I.
we throw his stuff out all the time because I'm a supporter of his. I'm a member. Um, when I was preparing for this, because I've been preparing for this almost a week, and so I was listening to uh, some of your really older stuff, and I recognized his, uh, voice. And but that but let me bring, since we kind of are talking a little bit about that, I'm going to just jump around a little bit. What's your relationship to Damon from Smoking Scam?
Damon and I kind of came up popularity wise at the same time.
Hmm.
When I first found him on Periscope when I was on Twitter way back in the day. I was watching
Hmm.
several different comedians. I'm friends with a lot of comedians in the LA area. That's something that I've
Hmm.
always, ever since I moved here, I started being friends with them. They started inviting me to special comedy shows, and I just love being around people that are funny, creative.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love being around comedians. Uh, when I first started hanging out with these different people, this is about what was the question? Is about Alien Alphabet?
No, Damon. You and Damon.
Oh, sorry, Damon. When I first started hanging out with the comedians, the, Periscope was so new that almost nobody was on it. And
Right.
so when I first saw Damon, he was smoking and he was watching police chases. And at the time, I was doing both of those things as well. I was smoking, I was watching police chases. I was like, this guy is in my city doing the same thing that I'm doing. It was cool to see somebody that I could relate to, and it was somebody that I was reporting on the area that I was actually in. And
Hmm.
so the very first time that I had heard about him was on Twitter. And then when the George Floyd stuff started happening, all of us kind of came up in our popularity at that same time. And so I remember seeing his YouTube page was at about 1,400 or, in the lower thousands. And I
Right
was
where
in
I
the same
am.
area. Well, and,
Yeah.
and Damon and I both came up at the exact same time in 2000 and I want to say 2018, 2019. I took a year off from everything completely. I didn't chase any stories. I didn't do any of that stuff. I moved into the San Diego area. Immediately, I didn't touch this channel because it's LAOC and I'm living in San Diego. There's
Yeah.
really not a way for anybody, any real person to commute from that area to San Diego. Unless you're taking a train and you have unlimited patience, it's not going to work out. So there have been so many times where this channel was just like a hobby channel that could have sat there and never done anything.
Hmm.
But now it's just an additional vehicle for me to tell stories. And that's what I like about Damon is Damon will highlight things that other people might not be seeing. Uh, I'm lucky enough to be friends with him. And if you're friends with him in real life, you realize that he's that same person off stream.
Hmm.
Same thing with my friend Alien Alphabet. He's the same person off stream.
Yeah.
And
I
Damon's,
asked, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Oh, I asked Alien Alpha, or he was on X, and I asked him if I could interview him. He just said, uh, "I don't do interviews." I was okay.
He said
Well,
what? It cut out. It cut out.
he
What did
says,
he say?
"Uh, I don't do interviews," just like that. And then he moved
Well,
right on to the next thing, and I thought, "Oh, that's cool," you know.
the thing with him and the thing is, it's not because he would have something to hide. It's not because he wouldn't want people to know.
Mhm.
It's that if you have 1,000 people watching, it's not 1,000 supporters and 1,000 fans. If you have
Yeah.
1,000 people watching, you have to assume that 100 of those people are rooting against you in some way. And even in the last couple months, I've had people impersonate me, start up email addresses that were from Stringers Live, from LAOC, reach out to people as if they were me. That will only get worse as this goes on. It's already bad, it will only get worse. And so, as we share those stories with one another, it's scary. And it's especially scary if the risk versus reward isn't there and it's not there. There's way more risk in doing this than reward.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people don't understand that. If they see me this next upcoming weekend and Saturday, oh wow, there's a call over here. Get over there to it. I'm going there with no bulletproof vest, no radio, no backup. Nobody's making sure that I'm okay. People are like, "Get up there, get right up on the front lines." I'm putting so much risk into what could
Yeah.
potentially come out of it. And when it happens night after night, people are like, "Go faster, get closer." They don't care about the risk that you're taking. They
Yeah.
don't know that you're in a bad area of Los Angeles that they wouldn't even drive through. They wouldn't even consider driving through that area, let alone getting out, interacting with people. So the apprehension that he has with keeping his privacy private, you can never get it back. It's like a fart. Once it's out, it's for
It's
everybody.
out. And
You can't put it back in.
I respect that 100%. And I'll still, I I I love his channel. I love his work. He does great work. Great work. Okay, well, let's
To
move
me,
on. Yeah.
just to wrap that up, to me,
Yeah.
Damon and Alien Alphabet, they're both artists, and I was a DJ before I started doing any of this new stuff. Damon is a DJ. He DJs those sounds. You have to have such a huge knowledge of what to do, where it is, how to do it, the timing. He's a DJ, and he should be respected on that level of somebody that's like producing art that other people aren't producing. I feel the
Mhm.
same way about Alien Alphabet. There's so many people on that Stringers Live list that are doing it the same way. He's
Mhm.
constantly trying to push creativity because he's a creative person. He's an
Mhm.
artistic person. He just has that in his soul that he wants to do it differently,
Yes.
and I respect him a lot for that. And I respect Damon a lot for that too. It's they both. I might disagree with both of them on a lot of different things. It doesn't matter at all. It doesn't affect our friendship.
Sure.
And I don't pat myself on the back for a lot of things, but I've always gotten along with everybody. And
You know,
when I was a little kid, I got along with everybody. And when I was in middle school, they pulled me out to be a peer counselor. And so they would pull me out of a class and say, so and so Tony was fighting with Curtis. And they would put me in a room with them and I'd be like, what's going on? Like, and then they would tell me, and I would literally, it's not like I would work every issue out, but I would just be like, because I was interested and I knew them and they both liked me. And so
yeah.
I've always been this middleman of, can we work it out? And if I can't work it out, I'm disappointed. I want to, it's always like a Sudoku puzzle to me. There's a way that everybody can be happy. Can we figure out how to make 2 and 2 equal 4?
That's one thing I've noticed over about you over the I've been watching you well over a year. And well, no, I started watching you with George Floyd. And that's hang on, getting ahead of myself because one thing I've noticed about you over the time, and a lot of the time I just lurk and I just watch and I'm very observant. And even though I'm a disaster, I'm still trying to be observant. But you are one of the most observant people I've ever noticed in my life. You notice things that nobody would take the time to notice. You'll be driving down the road and we're going along, everybody's happy, in the back seat. And then you just move the camera and you just say, you know what? Look at that tree. That is a really cool tree. And you'll say, because why? And then you'll switch it over to um, some guy, talking to, the flies as he's batting them out of the way, and then there'll be something going on over here and over here and over here. Well, now I understand how that uh, became something of your attributes because of everything you've done, everything you were trained to see. Now, let me ask you about this. This is how do you uh, take safety precautions? Do you wear
Did
bulletproof
you say
vests? Safety
not
precautions.
not every night. I do have a bulletproof vest. It
Mhm.
looks really stupid.
Mm,
I'm
mhm.
sorry. My mom got it from me. My mom used to
Oh.
buy these things on eBay that are like, I don't know what it's called, but it's you. If you buy this, you get these other things within the box too. It's
Mhm.
like a lot or something like that. I'm
Mhm.
not sure what the term is, but she she bought something that had a used bulletproof vest in it, and so
Mhm.
I have a military Kevlar vest that is like 10 years expired. So you're
Thanks,
not supposed
mom.
to use you're not supposed to use something like that that's expired, but it's probably better than nothing. And it's the sheets of Kevlar. I don't think anybody's ever seen me wear it because it's camouflaged. It's like desert camo. And so if I was just to put that on, it would look
Yeah,
like I was, GI
yeah,
Joe Junior trying
yeah, your
to look more
onesie.
important than I am. But it
Ah,
is something, and that's something that early on, if I was at home and I would say, "Hey, AA, there's a situation over here," and then he's going to it, in my mind, I'm like, "Hey, if he gets hurt, that's on you because he wasn't going to go over there, and then you told him about it. So if for some reason anything happens, that's on you." And that's been something that's hard for me. Even when a crazy call comes out and I see him like going over to it, a lot of the times I don't really want him to be going over to it because I know what the real risks are. I know the different victims that could get mad, the different police that could be having a bad night, the person that's in custody that has nothing to lose. There's so many different things that could happen. And I think people are just like boring, next,
mm,
I'm over
mhm.
it. They're
Yeah.
seeing this stuff and it's free. They're seeing it night after night for free, and it's like they want you to dunk more. They want you to have more highlight reel stuff. And for me, I've broken so much equipment. I've been hurt so many times. I've had so many sketchy things happen to me. If I get home and my car's in one piece, I'm in one piece, and I have a lot of my equipment that's not broken, that's the win.
Mhm. Mhm. Let me switch gears on you a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about LAPD. Do they, in your opinion, just your opinion, do they police correctly? Are they policing the streets correctly? And same with LASO.
It's
And
kind of
I'm
a loaded
asking
question.
because my father, he was LASO, and he that was long ago. And my husband is retired Orange County. So this is an interesting question to me.
It's a really complicated answer because that is not a black and white thing. It's almost like saying, are all the bakers making croissants the right way? Everybody has a different recipe. Everybody has a different amount of every combination of stuff that they're putting into it.
Mhm,
I have more, I think I have more empathy for all of the different levels. And for me to see, like, if I was to go to a scene right now, the EMTs don't know the firefighters don't know the police officers. I think a lot of people assume that everybody's closely interacting with each other so much they're not. And so these agencies get there and oftentimes they don't know how to interact with one another. And I'm used to that. I'm used to being in an area where it's all these different people with different agendas, all focused, hyper focused on getting exactly what they need and not caring about anybody else. When the police are doing what they're doing to me, some of the time it's out of concern for my safety, very rarely. It's more
mhm,
about what could possibly get them in trouble
mm,
versus I could let you have this access, but that's going to make me look dumb to my coworkers if anything happens. So now it's on me. I could let you, like if I'm a police officer, I could let you go under this tape, but the second that you do something stupid, my superiors are going to be like, why was he under the tape? You shouldn't
mhm,
have had him over there in the first place. And I'm like, you're right. And so that it's not an answer as of if they're doing it right and if they're doing it wrong.
mhm,
It's that there should be more people doing it right that people look up to, because
mm,
in my experience there are just so many people doing it not right or wrong. They're kind of
mhm,
just phoning it in because of the volume. And I think a lot of people, whatever job that you're in, you get overwhelmed with volume of everything, and then the quality control goes down. And here in Southern California, the frequency of these calls is crazy. You could screw something up and have the opportunity to do a way better job on the next 20 calls that you get that are the same. I think when these officers see me, especially when they see me with a cell phone, they don't respect what I'm doing out there. I think that they think that I'm an auditor, that I'm possibly like a looky loo, that I'm somebody unprofessional out there. And when they see me being less professional, I think they get more scared of, are they out here trying to catch me doing something wrong? Is that their goal? Is that their end goal, is to catch me doing something wrong? And I have a lot of empathy for what they're doing. I know it's a tough job. When they treat me with respect, it just makes me so happy because that's how it should be.
It
You should be
should.
at least giving me the respect that I'm giving you, and we volley that back and forth. That should be just common. But it's
Did
when, oh, go ahead.
no, please.
Like when a news reporter does something bad, it looks bad on everybody. And like, if I'm friends with that person, I'm like, hey, that could have been handled in a different way. I would hope that other officers do that to other officers. Yo, I heard you yell at that press guy. It's just going to make us look bad at the next scene. So could it have been handled in this other way? That's what people should never stop looking for, is that better way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And in my personal life, when I was at these stages of having less maturity, that's when you take things more personally. What did you say? What? You can't say that to me. It's all of these things that like elevate emotion. Police shouldn't be policing by emotion. And I see a lot of cops that don't. They're separating themselves. They're like, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm here to do, and I'm here to do it. I grew up around cops that were policing emotionally, and that's what gave me a bad taste about
Mm-hmm.
policing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think anybody can relate to that. If you have a job, no matter what job that you have, if somebody's being shitty to you, then you can really make their life harder in all of these different ways. Same thing with the cop, same thing with the sheriff. If they want to, twist your arm, they can twist your arm. Hopefully you're not giving them a reason to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody has a bad day at their job. If you have a job that's so important, like a police officer, you really can't afford to have bad days. And the same thing for me and my safety. It's like when I'm out there doing this job, I'm not safe a lot of the time. I'm in really dangerous situations doing dangerous things. The
Yes.
only thing that's keeping me safe is my like scene awareness and the vibe. And
Your
that's what a lot of
observation skills.
the camera's facing this way, and I'm doing as I'm facing it forward, I'm looking around because things are happening all around me, and sometimes I'll get a vibe that I'm not safe or something's happening that I'm not safe. I'm not letting people know that. I'm just adjusting to it and dealing with it so that I can get out of there in one piece. That's
Yeah.
what happened the other night at that shooting with the bouncer that died in front of the club. There were
Mm-hmm.
people all around me that were whispering and looking over at me, and it was potentially friends of the people that were involved in that saying, hey, this dude is getting stuff that is potentially keeping our friend less safe. And I knew that. And in the moment, I was like, I probably have another 20 or 30 seconds before I'm not safe here, before I need to renegotiate and go to a higher
Wow.
plateau where I have a little bit more safety. And so
Sure.
it's something that there's not a cut and dry answer to that as far as if they're doing it right or wrong. But I will say that in my younger life, it was 80-20 bad interactions with law enforcement. And now, after doing this job, it's 80-20 good interactions with law enforcement. But I do have to say that a lot of that is because I have a camera. If I was just to walk up and be anybody, I'm not going to get treated the same as if it's on the permanent record.
Mm.
So, a lot of the times,
Interesting.
that holding that phone is almost like a double body cam. They're like, well, I have a body cam. And I'm like, and I do as well. So we both have to be responsible for our interaction now.
Mm-hmm.
Versus I'm covering up my body cam and you don't have one, so now it's just you and me. What are we gonna do? And that's how I grew up, was cops being like, "You wanna play that game? Well, then you just hit the painful button." And I've I've definitely been harassed by law enforcement. I grew up, I don't drink alcohol, and so when I was younger, I was always the designated driver, and I would drive at night, and if you were out past 2 a.m., you were getting pulled over.
Yeah.
And if you looked the way that I looked and you had stickers on your car, you probably had pot in your car. We just couldn't drive around with pot in our car because we already knew we were going to get pulled over. And so a lot of the times in Colorado, when you get pulled over and you get a breathalyzer, they give you this little straw. It's a white straw. It plugs into the top of the breathalyzer. You blow into it, and that straw is disposable. After a while, I would ask them, "Can I keep the straw?" And they're like, "Yeah, we don't care. We're just going to throw it away." It's because when I get pulled over 10 miles down the road, I'm going to hold out a handful of straws to let them know, like,
Mhm.
I've already been pulled over 3 or 4 times tonight. Here's my registration. Here are the three straws. And a lot of times, be like, "All right, we're just checking it out here." Well, if you're a cop, you're looking for people like me that would have an interesting car to look through. And
Sure.
I didn't have a good scenario. I didn't have good interactions with cops. And so the stage was set for me to have a strong distrust for, you're not looking out for my best interests. And that's the experience that I've had. But now that I've been in this role for a while, if I was to go to a scene right now, it's young kids. It's like
Yes.
20-year-old kids, 25-year-old kids. They're so scared of having the mess up of a superior be like, "Why did you let this guy get into this area? Why didn't you take care of this in the way that you were trained?" And so I know the pressures that they're under. And when they do treat me fairly and when they are nice, it means everything to me. And I try to let them know, like, that meant a lot. Thank you for doing that.
That's one thing I've noticed about you and that I find very, um, as an attribute is, first of all, you've never met a stranger.
True.
Yeah. But second of all, you're very polite. Uh, here's here's a here's an example. You have Joe with First Responders Media with you, and you guys were there was a shooting or something going on, and uh, you were checking it out. The security guard came up to you and, whoops, oh, hold on. Security guard came up to you, and at first he said, kind of barked at you, and you were super nice, and he totally reversed it. And he was, then he started talking about because it was in front of, cookies or, whatever. And but you made a rapport with him. And I noticed that, and that I wrote that down, and um, Jeremy, I mean, you're such an interesting person that I can go 90 different ways with this. And but I'm not. I'm gonna keep going on this because
No, go
uh
go whatever ways you want. You have another
okay,
2 hours, so go do whatever you want.
okay. Let me ask this. When did Los Angeles, in your opinion, really start to tank?
Did you say start to tank?
Yeah, go downhill.
Um, Before I got here. I got here in 2004, 2005.
Hmm.
My dad lived in the Temecula area, which is
Oh yeah.
kind of more toward San Diego.
Mhm.
But I was visiting this area a lot when I was younger, and I was visiting LA as a tourist. And so to me, I was just like, it was like coming to Vegas for the first time. I was just like, this is a world. I'm from Iowa.
Mhm.
So somebody from Iowa that sees Vegas, you're like, what? And then somebody that sees Los Angeles, you're like, this is a different planet.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge cinema fan. I love movies and I love old movies. I know when I first got here, I was just like, that's the scene from this movie, and that's where they were shooting that scene from Big Lebowski. Everything was exciting to
Mhm.
me because I was like, I'm here. I'm with the best of the best. And that was always my impression was, I wonder how I stack up against the best of the best. I'm not going to know in Colorado. I'm only
Mhm.
going to know if I go to New York, LA, one of these big places to see like how I really stack up. When I got here, it's not the best of the best. It's like people handing it to their friends or people handing it to people for
Mhm.
reasons that, and it's not the most deserving people. It's like the friendly handshake, and that was discouraging. But then I was also like, there's a lot of room for people like me to have the passion to come up. It's not the best people; it's the fortunate people.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I was never in LA when it was in a good place, and
Yeah.
I've lived everywhere. Almost every single year that I lived here for a while, I was moving. I was going to an apartment in the valley, and then an apartment in LA, and then one of my friends would have a roommate situation. They would move out, and I'd live in Santa Monica, and then I would live in Silver Lake. I lived all over the area, and when I was homeless, I lived on Santa Monica and Gower. I worked at a place right there called Hollywood Production Center. I didn't know that that was a bad area. That's kind of the track for streetwalkers, hookers,
Mm.
a lot of drug activity, just a lot of really bad. That's where the bouncer got shot, was right down the street from where I was homeless. That
Okay.
area that I was in where he got shot, I lived in that 5, 6 block radius for
Mm.
years off and on. I've never been scared to be out by myself because of the way that I blend in with people. And usually, when they meet me, they can feel the respect that I'm giving them. I don't know how that actually works, but like I give a lot of respect just right off the bat.
Mm.
And I think a lot of people pick up on that and they feel it. There's a lot of times when that doesn't matter at all. People have mental health issues, people have had a bad night or whatever, and they want to take it out on whoever's in front of them. LA taught me a lot about that, and I was never scared about that until I got married. And when I got married, the safety of my wife came into question, and she would say I left something out in the car, and we would both put our stuff on to go out and get it because there's no way I would trust her to go out there by herself to even get something out of her car. That might be the last
Mm.
time that I see her. So that was one of our decisions in moving out of LA. Is I was like, LA is a zoo. I want to visit the zoo. I don't really want to live in a cage at the zoo. I want to live right outside and be able to clock in and clock out. When I
Jeremy,
left LA,
when can I
yeah,
interrupt you just for one moment?
sure.
I
Yes.
have to swap my battery.
Yeah, do it.
Okay, 1 second. It's gonna freeze. Don't go anywhere,
Yeah,
anybody. 1 second.
yeah. I'll keep rambling just in case people can still hear me. Who's in here? Armist, what up, Armist? I live in the woods now. Nice. Is that Laguna Woods or is that the real like woods?
Okay, I'm back. Armist is a
You were so
chef.
sweet,
Did
my
you know
husband.
that?
I didn't know that.
He is.
Shout out
He
to all
is.
the
He's a
chefs. What up, Heidi, Nanya, Kimmy, Kat, True, Emma, Darkwatch, Cheech. Oh, it's a lot of the homies in here. Nikki, Fubar's in
I
here.
have
What
to
up,
tell
everybody?
you, I have to tell you the first. Okay, you just mentioned her name, so I got to say it. Cat Harvey. Cat Harvey, what up? She first time I ever heard you mention her name, you went down the list. Cat Harvey, what up? And every time since then, I've never been able to see her name and not say what up behind it. So now, whenever I see her, her name is Cat Harvey. What up? Um, oh, now, okay, what kind of when you're out on a Saturday night or when you're out on a Friday night, okay, and Damon is streaming you, and everybody is tuning in. What we don't see, what do you have going on? I know that you. Oh, Cat Harvey, what up? She's on the screen. Uh, I know you mentioned Marcel a lot. Do you get, say, text messages from DE, thank you. Do you get text messages from uh, insiders, dispatchers, police officers, anybody? How do you know where exactly to go all the time? Because sometimes we're like, how do you know where to go?
So when I was really little, my mom was a reporter. She's always had like either a column in a newspaper or a story that she's working on or something like that. When I was really little, she would get death threats and she would have people that were mad at her for something, some perspective that she had, and somebody had the opposite perspective. So I remember being really little, and she would say, "Hey, if anything sketchy happens, be on the lookout for this. Be on the lookout for this." Um, what was your original question? Sorry, somebody just knocked on the
The
door and it threw.
That's no problem. What kind of tips do you get that we don't know about? Who is helping you
Oh,
out?
sorry. That was
No
the
problem.
reason I started talking about that is even when I was really little, my mom was like, "You have to protect your sources. If people don't trust you, then
Hmm.
there's no point."
Gotcha.
And not only would I want them to trust me because I want further information, but I don't want to compromise anybody's safety, anybody's anything, even their respect. And so to keep things private for people, whether they say, "Hey, anything. I just got done waxing my upper lip. Don't tell anybody." I'm not going to tell
Hmm.
anybody. I'm not somebody that likes to gossip. I'm not somebody that likes to get
Sure.
into other people's business. If you are sweet enough to give me the heads up on something, I'm going to high five you back by keeping that private.
Gotcha.
And I do think that that's one of the things that I do well is knowing how to not give people's information to somebody else if it's in a gossip lane. I try not to do that. And I have ambulance drivers that will give me tips. I have tow truck drivers that will give me tips. I have friends on LAFD. I have friends on Orange County Fire Authority. Sometimes
Hmm.
it will be fans. Sometimes it will be people that are like, "Please don't let anybody know that I told you this, but on
Hmm.
Saturday this might be happening. Hey, it's so
Okay.
and so. You might want to come take a look at this." And even if I can't go, I'm letting them know, "Thank you so much for even like keeping me in
In
the
the
loop
loop.
with stuff like that."
Hmm.
Relationships are really hard to maintain and foster, and especially now in 2023, people are so emotional. People get their feelings stepped on in all these different ways. I just try to give people that respect and then to let them know that it's something that they can expect in the future too. That if you're nice enough to tell me something in confidence, then that's where it's going to stay.
In I, my respect level was already up here, but it has really just superseded. You're very an impressive person. I
Thanks.
really have a lot of admiration for you, and to be able to speak up about how things that you've gone through in your life, but not only that, how you have learned from them. And one thing that I have been learning in as I'm getting older, we'll say that I'm 52 now, is one thing that you can never change is how a person thinks about you at the moment. And then whatever they're thinking, they're going to trust you or they're not going to trust you. It's one or the other. And I have been in the situation to where when I was younger, people didn't trust me. I didn't like that. And so I've
Same.
worked very hard to turn that around. And so
Can I tell you a story about when I was in
please,
preschool?
please.
So I was in preschool. I have a lot of the way that my mind, I don't know if I have mild ADD, I don't know if I have something special going on with me, but I'm a very visual person, and when I lock in a memory, I can almost go back to that memory. I can see the faces, I know the emotions I was experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a little boy, my sister was in school, and I would get put into childcare, so like babysitter. And when I was really young, when I was like 3, the babysitter that I was staying at would lock me in a room, and I got locked in a dark room, and it terrified me. And I was always scared to be babysat by anybody, scared to be like left in the possession of anybody that wasn't my mom, because this babysitter would just kind of put me in this room and forget about me. There was also a point where I would be put in the basement. She had a basement area, and that's where all the crying kids went. So if I was to, I was 3, so if I was to throw a tantrum and cry, I would go down with the crybabies. When I was in preschool, so the year right before I was supposed to start elementary school, I was in a preschool program, and there was a point when we had to take a nap, and we had cots. It was in the upstairs of a church. Preschool was in a church. We're all up in the top scary area of this church, and it's dark. And it was everybody take a nap, and you have to be quiet. Nobody can have their head up. You're supposed to have your eyes shut, and you're supposed to be quiet. So I'm in my little cot. I'm just trying to be quiet, trying to get through the nap. I never napped. I just always kind of like sweated through the time. I opened my eyes and I looked up, and there was one of my friends across the room, a kid that I knew, and he was talking to this older girl, like maybe a high schooler girl. I just kept thinking, like, why would she be talking to him? Like, what would they have to talk about? Why is she even risking getting in trouble? What's he talking to her about? They looked over at me and they saw me, and they did one of these. They're like, come here. And I
Cool.
looked around and I went over there, and she gave me a little piece. They were eating a Snickers bar. For
Oh,
some reason, this is like one of the biggest moments of my life, because I'm, she's, she's bringing me into something that I'm not supposed to be in. I'm supposed to be sleeping. For some reason, she has enough respect to be like, do you want to come hang out with us? We're eating this. Do you want a piece of it? That changed my life. I was just like, this is somebody that didn't have to do this for me, but they did. And I don't know, I'm getting emotional talking about it, because like that just meant everything to me that she would do that for me.
yeah. Jeremy, I I have so much appreciation and admiration, and I'm choking up a little bit right now because I understand a lot of what you're currently going through. I don't know the details of it, but what I do know is all of the experiences that we have experienced in our life brings us to one certain learning point that will help us get through whatever it is that we need to get through. And certain people come into your life at a certain reason, a certain time, for maybe it may be just a moment. I think of that time. I was so absolutely touched, and I cried several hours after this for it. There was a man, you were on your way home to Orange County. There was a man who was all by himself, and he was homeless. And you sat there and you sat there with him for the longest time. You made yourself comfortable, and we were just sitting in the car watching. The amount of trust that this man had in you. Yes, go
I
ahead.
think that's why I told the story about the Snickers bar. That changed my life, because I still want to be that for other people. Like, the fact that that girl did that for me, I still want to give that moment to somebody else too.
Well, you did, because I don't know, I can speak for myself, but that changed my whole perspective of not just Jeremy, he's fun to watch, and yeah, he's great, but he's a human being too that also has emotions because you connected with him. And as far as I know, you've never come in contact with him again. He was cold.
I
Did you?
I do a lot of this stuff offline now because there have been several times when I do something nice for people and then they look around like this has got to be on camera, right? And I'm like, fuck, yes, it is on camera, and I feel bad because that's not why I'm doing it. I have those supplies in my Jeep all the time, so like my wife and I'll be out and I'll go like give something to somebody. It means more to me than to do it off camera.
Of course.
It's
Of
it's way
course.
more real and it's better
It,
for them. It's better for me. The hard part for me is that let's say that you sent in a bunch of donations. You don't want to trust that I handed those out. You want to see it. You want to be there. You want to do it. And I've always been taught that you don't hold the door open for somebody and take a picture of yourself holding the door open for somebody. And then look what
there
I
you
did
go.
earlier. I held the door open for 6 people. You just erased all of it by letting people know.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's like you have to motivate people to do whatever they want to be inspired to do as well. And so early on, when I started helping out people, every once in a while doing it on camera, people would say, "Hey, because of you, I have Ziploc bags in my car with just a couple supplies, and I'll give them to the several homeless people that I know are going to be in these certain areas." That's it. That's already enough for me. Like I already made a little bit of a difference, and that's already enough. I'm not trying to make a huge
Yeah.
impact. I'm just trying to leave it better than how I found it.
Hmm. Well, what I'm trying to say is, and let me explain it this way. That one night where you we were all out, you took us all out on the beach, and it was like 1 a.m. Nobody was around. As a matter of fact, Fubar on patrol and I were talking about this yesterday. He appreciated that so much, that just that little walk, and or the time at the beach. The impact that you have on individuals because of who you are, not for what you do, is it's astounding. And I am really happy to say that I'm an acquaintance, I'm a friend, that it's nice to know. It's nice to
It's
know.
great. I want to say that I like the most the biggest thing I can give to somebody is friendship.
Mhm. Yeah. You know, I like to tell my chat room because sometimes when things are in the oven and they gotta cook, we'll have chat time. And I've always learned that the biggest things in life are truly free. A hug, a smile, love, um, tears of joy. You can't buy anything like that. And when you have somebody setting an example for you of exactly how to achieve that, my hat's off to you. It's
I
my hat's off to you.
I want to be somebody that is just understanding and approachable, but just more understanding. Like a lot of people just play like the game of life like it's a poker hand. Like you can't show people what you're thinking or feeling, but it's like a game of advantages. You don't want to give people a cheat sheet because then they're gonna win, and how are you gonna win if they're winning?
Mhm.
There's got to be a way where everybody can win. There's got to be that like recipe, and that's kind of what I've never understood is like if we took care of people better, there wouldn't be the need for the crime. There wouldn't be a lot of this stuff. A lot of that is coming from neglect, and it's coming from people being like, it's not my problem. People just deal with whatever is their problem, and then they don't see how their issues are connected to other people that have the same issues. And so it's like, oh, you're hungry? Well, that doesn't make any difference to me because I'm hungry. I need to eat tonight. Yeah, but if this person's starving too and you didn't help them out, now you're in danger because they could possibly like try to get something that you have. If you would have just helped them out at the beginning, you wouldn't have had to deal with that. And I wish that I would have come onto the planet where people just had basic health care, basic ways to have. I'm 43 years old. I've never had a house. I've never owned a home. I might not own a home in my lifetime. My parents had a house when they were in their 20s because they got like
Mhm.
a deal from my grandparents. Some of these things don't exist anymore, and I had a huge health scare 2 years ago where I thought I was going to die. And for me, it was this is how my life ends. All of these different stories different experiences that I've been through. This is the final page, and these are the last words on the page. I really thought I was going to die. So every day that I've had since then has been like, you might as well. Like, what do you really have to lose?
Wow. You and I could sit down privately and probably have a 10-hour conversation that would still need to be continued. You know what I mean?
And to be honest, it's hard for me to be open. I like to be private. I like
Yeah.
to not have any like to not just give my cheat sheet of things that I'm insecure about or like vulnerable about to people. But now that I've had this health scare, it's like I don't have a lot of that stuff to lose anymore. And for me, if I can help several people, it is worth it. I've heard people say that before, like, oh, if it only helps one other person. When I heard that in my previous versions of myself, I was like,
Mhm.
you did all that for one person. Like, it's a lot of effort for, yeah, but it's hard to just help people, period. And like I said, with
Yeah.
that girl that gave me that Snickers bar when I was a little kid, that was not on her radar at all that that was a big deal. But at the time, I was just like, adults don't treat kids like adults. Adults aren't letting them into these little areas. And all the way through middle school, high school, college, I've always had people that were older than me that would like kind of put their arm around me and say, hey, do you want some good advice? And I'm like, desperately, please. And then really take that advice as if it like happened to me.
Yeah. KRW, thank you very much, Calvin. But thank you very, very kindly. I didn't get a chance to read what you said, but I will go back and read it. I will. Thank you. Jeremy, we have a big storm coming in, and um, I probably have about 8% left of my battery. Can we continue this on maybe in a month or 6 weeks? Are you cool with that?
Yeah,
Do you want to think about
definitely.
it?
I don't need to think about it. The answer is yes. It's just that
Thank you.
August is, I think, going to be a complicated month for me.
No
The
problem.
stuff that my mom is going through right now, she doesn't want me to be public about it. I think what I've
I
already said
understand.
about it is probably more than what she would want. Uh, so yeah, it's gonna be a tough month, but I will pick it back up.
We'll talk in the fall. Yeah. Jeremy, I can't say thank you enough for sitting down with me for an hour and a half and just making yourself vulnerable. I wasn't expecting that. And thank you because it really spoke a lot to me. And I know I'm going to cry like a baby when we get off, but my heart is so full of joy right now. Just call you friend. Yeah.
Well, you deserve it. Thank you for the opportunity for the conversation. Thanks for having interest, and anybody that's in the chat, thanks for supporting me. Thanks for supporting this channel. Uh,
Mm,
I think you have such a cool channel, and I like that you're not just keeping it in. Okay, it's only one thing. It's only cooking. I like that people have different interests, and the one thing about me is like you don't have to have things in common with me to be my friend. I like to
mhm.
accept people however they are, and so
Well,
I'm happy to.
you're probably one of the more um, amazing human beings I've ever come across. And I don't say that
Thank you,
lightly. I don't say that lightly. And
thank
so
you.
you're welcome. You're so welcome. And next time you're up in the area, I hope you come visit because we got a lot of beauty to share, a lot of beauty around here.
I would love to come fish, ride some four wheelers, and just kind of be in nature. And so I always tell people like really don't throw invitations to me around like that unless you mean it because I take people up on stuff like that. And I love home cooked food, and so you
Hey,
never know.
well,
I might be in your guest room sometime.
I'm putting up, I'm not kidding you. Let me show you real quick, real quick. Can I flip this around? Yes, I can. Okay. Gracie, no. Okay. Right down over there, we're putting an 18-foot um, teepee. And so, oh, can you hear that? Thunder?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. And so that is what's coming in. And so,
My grandma had a very professional teepee. I mean, like an
whoops,
expensive structure of a teepee, and they're so cool. I love them so
that's
much.
what this is. This is an authentic Cherokee teepee. It's an 18-foot in diameter. It's going to be huge. I'm going to make it a glamping tent. Yeah,
You you should do a little time lapse or just kind of every day take a picture of the progress so you can see it slowly being built. One of my I watch documentaries. I've watched thousands of documentaries. I make documentaries. One of my favorite documentaries is called Cave of Forgotten Dreams. It's by Werner Herzog. If you haven't seen that, please check
I
it out.
haven't.
Cave of Forgotten Dreams.
Okay.
I won't tell you about it because I don't want to ruin it. But
Okay.
maybe next time, maybe next chat, we'll talk about it.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Jeremy, thank you for your time. And thank you so much. And be safe. Greet your wife
You're welcome.
and your
Shout out
parents.
to shout out to Robert from NLM, Jacob, Dad's Gone
Yes,
Live, Damon from Smoke and Scan. Anybody else that would like to come on to Calamity Girl's channel? She has a great channel here. Please give her an interview, and hopefully, I can taste your cooking someday and hang out with you in your teepee.
absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
chat.
Have a great day. Thanks for the
Okay.
chat. Thanks to
You
everybody that
too.
tuned in, and everybody take care. I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.